As an instructor, I see the same mistakes made in essays every single semester. To help alleviate some of these issues, here are some hints on how to write better essays. Before you start writing, you need to know what the essay is about. Read the instructions, and ask questions if you're confused. On a basic level, if the essay is supposed to be 6 to 8 pages, don't turn in a 5.5 or 20-page paper. If the essay is about a social impact of a particular technology, write about the social impact of that particular technology, not about all technology throughout history. Otherwise, it seems like you didn't read the instructions. I know it sounds simple, but it bears repeating. Read the instructions and do what they say. In general, if your instructor suggests something like follow this formatting sheet, or has various hang-ups regarding spaces after a period, no contractions, or the Oxford comma, I suggest that you try to follow their suggestions. Yes, different instructors sometimes want things differently. Yes, most of the time it is arbitrary and possibly silly. However, this will help you get used to the rest of the world, where following arbitrary directions keeps people employing you happy and keeps you employed. When you're at the bar with your friends watching the Pats game, I guarantee that you communicate differently than when you're at your in-laws for Thanksgiving or at a Michelin star restaurant. This is understanding your audience and using the right type of voice, and is probably something you do on a daily basis. The same goes for college essays. Some are more formalized, some are more relaxed, and have few rules. Figuring out what kind of voice is expected is another good life lesson to understand, because loud Pats fans screaming about touchdowns do not last too long in fancy restaurants. I will ask you where your evidence is to support statements like, everyone knows that bacon is bad for you, or everyone uses Facebook. And you will be sad, because you do not have that evidence. Because bacon is awesome. And no, everyone doesn't use Facebook. Only a Sith deals in absolutes. Don't be a Sith. Do not say you unless you are writing a letter to your instructor. If you tell me that I think in a certain way, it may make me feel a little uncomfortable that you are either A, reading my mind, or B, assuming something very untrue. As with before, think about your audience. You are not writing your paper just for the instructor or someone in the class, even though they might be the only ones reading it. So addressing them as you, or assuming that they know your class, can be troublesome for an imaginary audience that you should be writing for. This is complicated, so I'll include a link in the description for learning more about audience. Avoid vast introductions like, things are worse than ever before. You cannot substantiate that argument. Also, avoid vast conclusions. What are you talking about? Just talk about that. Be specific. Along with being specific, if you don't know what a word means, should you use it in an essay? The answer is no. At the bare minimum, look it up. Avoid looking silly, because it really doesn't suit you. If your paragraphs are either very, very short or very, very long, it is probably a good sign that you need to take a look at either combining or expanding or dividing paragraphs up. Also, paragraphs should have transitions from one idea to the next. This means that when you start an idea, you should guide the reader from your last idea to the new one so that we can follow along with your wonderful line of logic. Otherwise, your essay could read like a string of musings by someone wandering around on the side of the road talking to themselves. This is not fun and often confusing. An argument is not simply stating your opinion. If you are going to use your experiences in an essay, then illustrate, through cited evidence, what your point is. The only time you should be discussing your opinion is to illustrate how it was formed or how it changed through the evidence that you will then cite. Every paper needs an introduction, and part of the introduction should state the purpose of the paper and give a brief overview of the argument. And wait, there's more. Every paper also needs a conclusion. This should summarize the argument and pull the essay together. These two things are like the dude's rug. They really put the room together. So don't pee on the dude's rug. First of all, don't plagiarize. Cite things. If you are using someone's words, put them in quotes. This is normal and good and awesome. Secondly, don't assume. If you're writing, I assume, or making things up that you think are true but don't have the right evidence to support, it means that you should be doing some more research and providing cited evidence. If you make a declarative statement regarding some sort of factual evidence, you need to provide a citation. Unless your argument includes statements that are universally understood or at least somewhat vague enough to be understood universally, you need evidence and a citation. A good example of this is the phrase, "everyone uses Facebook." You should ask yourself, do they? No. As mentioned before, not everyone does. You can say many people use Facebook, or if you like, you could get the actual number and make a citation. What type of materials should you be referencing? In general, academic, peer-reviewed sources are best, journalistic sources are somewhat questionable, and, for the most part, blogs are not okay. If you need more information about this, type in appropriate academic sources or something like this into your favorite search engine. No, Wikipedia is not something that you should cite. Wikipedia cites things, and so should you. I love Wikipedia and often go to it as a starting point for many of my inquiries. When you're there, scroll down all the way to the bottom, and there are the references. You can click on them and read them, and if they're appropriate caliber, you can cite them in your own essay. Of course, remember that you should properly cite your evidence. If you do not format your essay citations or bibliography correctly, it illustrates that you do not care enough to spend an extra few minutes on something you wrote. And then, we may wonder if we should spend an extra few minutes grading it. If we wanted to know how something works, we could look it up online. What most instructors want to know is if you can engage the topic and apply readings from the class and other academic sources to it. I cannot stress this enough. Especially in my own upper division courses, the goal is to get you thinking critically about the topics at hand. If all you do is describe something, I don't know whether you're engaging it or not. Spell check will not help you here. If you meant lions and typed loins, I will laugh and it will not go so well for you. And remember, comma provides a pause. Read your essay out loud. If you start to get lightheaded or confused on how it sounds, often this has to do with punctuation. This usually means that it's difficult for your instructor to understand and to grasp your great, wonderful, amazing ideas. Also, make sure to use apostrophes correctly. Personally, I find it helpful to avoid contractions. It avoids the majority of those problems. You can choose your own path. Finally, if you have any questions about proper spelling, grammar, or structuring a college essay, most colleges have a writing center that you can visit. They will help you. If you cannot get to the writing center, pass your essay off to someone else to read it. If you do not have anyone else, print it out, take a day, take a nap, and then go and look at it again with fresh eyes. If you do all of this, I am sure you'll get an amazing grade. I'm including a link in the description to some fun comics by the Oatmeal on grammar that are both entertaining and helpful, so check them out. Thanks for watching.